Today we're talking about the Sigma 24-70mm f2.8. But before we get into it, if you're new to the channel, my name is Anson, and on this channel we talk about filmmaking gear, specifically gear for the budget-conscious filmmaker. So if that's you, consider subscribing. Now I do want to mention that I was sent this lens from Sigma, but they haven't requested I say anything specifically about this lens, and so you're gonna get my full and honest opinion. And all the examples in this video were shot with the Sigma FP, and so it is an L mount lens, but this also comes in Sony E mount as well. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into what I think about this lens, starting first with the overall image quality. There are a few things that stand out for me as far as image when it comes to this lens, one being the minimum focusing distance. And I think this is a really good lens for product videography or product photography if you're a photographer. I really at this point don't know why you're a photographer being on my channel because I never take pictures, and I'm sorry about that if you are. Quippy. Very sorry. So the minimum focusing distance is one thing that gets me really excited. Overall, it has really good sharpness as well. Now I did use a pro mist filter in some of the outside shots for this video, but that was done to take down the sharpness. But this is a very sharp lens, and so even with that pro mist filter on there, there is still a lot of detail. Now the next thing is the fact that I would be remiss if I didn't say that 24-70 is a really versatile focal length, and that is one key benefit of this lens. Some of these shots I did super wide, some of them I did more telephoto, and the fact that I can do that all with this one lens is a really nice feature. And then the last thing is the fact that this is a 2.8 lens, and so while it's not an f1.8 or even f1.4 like some primes, 2.8 is also really going to perform well in low light. And so that's a really awesome benefit of this lens, is the fact that it's 2.8. And so those are some key features that I really liked about the image of this lens. But let's talk about the build quality. Like I did last week, I'm going to show you what it looks like mounted on the Sigma FP, and so you can see that it actually is not that big of a lens, but really well built. I do like the overall build quality of this lens. This is an art series lens, and so just like I said last week, you're gonna get a lot of those art series qualities. And so you'll have a manual focus and autofocus switch. You'll also have the focus hold button. And then a nice feature is on the bottom of the lens, it has a locking option because, and this is one thing I don't really like about the build, and that's the fact that when you zoom, the barrel extends. But if you want to just simply lock it in place for storage, it does have a locking option. I'm not a huge fan of when the barrel extends when it's zooming. Now that does cut down the overall size of the lens when you're storing it, but it also makes life a little bit more difficult when you're trying to balance this on a gimbal. You kind of have to balance it in the middle focal range and kind of go from there. So I'm not a huge fan of that. But other than the barrel extension, I think the overall design and build of this lens is super quality. As we've said before, this is an art series lens. That should not come as a surprise to you. So between build quality and image quality, what are my overall thoughts and who would I recommend this lens for? I'm gonna put this down now. Honestly, if you're looking at a 24-70 f2.8, hands down, this is a lens to check out, especially if you're on a budget. If you're on a budget, there is no question that you should look at this lens. Just like we talked about last week with the 85mm f1.4, when you look at what this is compared to, this is the budget version of this lens. It's not cheap, but it is definitely the budget version of this lens. If you're looking at a 24-70 f2.8, you're gonna be spending a lot more for some other brands, namely Sony. And so this is going to offer you an option where you don't have to shell out a ton of money to get that really awesome versatile focal length that does perform really well in low light. So that's it from me. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did enjoy the video, make sure to give it a like. If you're digging the overall content from the channel, consider subscribing. And as always, go and find your journey, go embrace life, stay safe, be happy, support each other, wash those hands, and I'll see you here next time. Peace.